Significant news on Friday. It's been an interesting month of conversation for Matthew Stafford and teams around the league, and eventually the Rams are able to restructure a deal that will keep their quarterback right there. Stafford had a couple of seasons left on an extension he signed in 22. Had talks with the Raiders and the Giants, but he's going to remain QB of the Rams. Jeremy Fowler joins us now from the Combine in Indianapolis. And Jeremy, these teams that need quarterback help in the National Football League are all still looking because Matthew remains in Los Angeles. It's like a game of musical chairs. There aren't nearly enough chairs. So this sort of amplifies the pursuit where?
Well, it amplifies the pursuit at about 6 different teams, Scott. You have the New York Giants, which I was told pushed really hard to get Matthew Stafford. 4 or 5 different iterations of potentially trying to make it work, putting together a package, but not a ton of intriguing options to fill all these musical chairs because 5 or 6 teams need one, and you might not have 5 or 6 capable ones. You have accomplishments. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, they've all done well. Kirk Cousins, but they're on the later half of their career.
Right, and so this is this show meeting conversation we're having where I just get to laughing about, like, we see it every year, right? We get to week whatever it is, and teams that have quarterbacks that just can't do it don't have a shot. So I would think if I'm Sam Darnold, and I know that the Vikings kind of like this guy they drafted because they used a high pick on McCarthy, I got to think that he just has to sit and wait and see just how loud someone's going to talk. And I got to think someone's going to yell at him to try to get his services. Is that the sense you have, Jeremy?
Yeah, Scott, that's the sense here in Indianapolis. This is a quarterback that won 14 games, put together a really good one-year body of work. So he will be coveted. And the fact that Matthew Stafford signed back with the Rams helps Sam Darnold a lot because that's one less chair he has to worry about with another team. So now you can leverage potentially Vegas with somebody else or even a Pittsburgh. I wouldn't take them totally off the table with a Darnold because he is considered the best option.
What do you hear, Jeremy, about – there's 2 more I'm curious about. I want to start with Russell Wilson because when – Coach Tomlin decided, all right, Fields has done well, but we're going with Wilson. And then it seemed to work, but then the wheels absolutely fall off at the end of the year for that Pittsburgh offense. And there are a lot of reasons why. They need playmakers. They've said as much. But what's the market and the appetite around the NFL if that's not the way Pittsburgh goes? In other words, if they say we're going to ride with Fields, who wants Wilson?
I do think Wilson probably has a home somewhere. You look at Las Vegas with Pete Carroll. Could they run it back? I have talked to a few ex-Seattle assistants that worked with Wilson. They believe that they've made amends from how things ended in Seattle. Okay. Maybe they could run it back. I'm hearing that the New York Giants, Wilson has at least looked at as a potential option for him. I still think there's a sentiment in the Pittsburgh building, and in some circles of that building, for Wilson to be the quarterback, but it's close between Fields and Wilson. If I had to pick one right now, I would pick Fields.
All right, last one, Kirk Cousins. He said he was hurt at the end of the year, and you hear maybe it was, ankle, shoulder, the whole lot of stuff kind of plaguing him, which would explain why it went so south. But Atlanta's saying, at least for the moment, all right, we're going to have a real expensive backup. Do you think that there's a market for him out there to be a starter potentially somewhere else?
It's interesting, Scott. I talked to a few executives here today, and they might think GM Terry Fontenot is not bluffing, saying that he's going to keep Kirk Cousins, that there's a scenario where if you're not going to get a draft pick for him and the money's guaranteed, you have to pay him anyways. Just keep him on the books, ride this out. It seems untenable based on the way things ended last year, but it's still entirely plausible. We haven't talked about the New York Jets, who I'm told are interested in Justin Fields, or at least are expected to investigate that market. If Cousins is available, they could do the same with him.
Man, it's fascinating. These teams just look at a quarterback that it was bad somewhere, but they look at him and go, we can make it work here. I guess that's where else could you be, right? You got to find somebody somewhere, Jeremy. Appreciate the time, man. Be well. We'll be looking forward to talking again somewhere down the road. Confidence is the most important thing you can have. Shedeur Sanders' dad sure had it, and so does his son, one of the top quarterback prospects in this year's draft in Indianapolis this week for the Combine, will not be working out with the other QBs on Saturday. Speaking with the media on Friday, Sanders had some bold remarks about what he believes his impact will be wherever he might go.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, it don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say or what people got to say? You know who my dad is? They hated on him too. So it's like it's almost normal. Without people hating, it's not normal for us. So we like the adversity. We like everything that comes with the name. That's why we are who we are.
In Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft, which was released this week, he has Sanders going 7th to the New York Jets, which would pair him with a first-year head coach in Aaron Glenn. Kiper has Abdul Carter from Penn State, Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami, and Travis Hunter, who Sanders played with and threw the ball to, going 1, 2, 3 overall. Speaking of that Heisman winner out of Colorado, not working out in Indy. Hunter has stated he believes he can play both ways at the next level. Our Ryan Clark said he could be a Hall of Fame DB. Hunter asked Friday about another rather accomplished two-way player in a different sport.
What's more difficult, what you do in football or what Tony does in baseball?
Probably me, what I do in football, because it's a lot on your body. You know, Tony, he's a great player, but you got to do.
Today is skill position day at the NFL Combine. The quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers work out. A number of players, though, are bypassing drills. Colorado's Travis Hunter, Arizona's Teteroa McMillan, and Ohio State's Emeka Ibuka, the top 3 receivers in Mel Kiper's position rankings on ESPN.com, are reported to be skipping drills. Also the case for his top running back prospect, Boise State's Ashton Jeanty, who will take part in interviews with teams, and the top 2 rated quarterbacks in the draft, Colorado's Shedeur Sanders and Miami's Cam Ward, will not be throwing during today's workouts. Laura Rutledge anchors our coverage from Indy.
Big weekend here for the NFL at the Scouting Combine in Indy. Field Yates, Louis Riddick here. And we know that Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, they're not going to throw. Field, do you have any issue with them not being out here on this field tonight throwing?
Yeah, Laura, there's a part of me that like to see both of these guys throwing tonight because they are two of the most electric players in this entire draft class at the most important position in all of team sports. But do I understand it? I do wholeheartedly. In the case of these players, they have 9 combined college football seasons. If you don't know what kind of thrower both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are by now, that's because you haven't been doing your homework. We are very much in a different age of the NFL Combine. It won't surprise me if we have headlines similar to this every year with the top quarterbacks. So I would have loved to have seen it myself, although I do understand why these guys are opting against.
Yeah, look, I've always had an issue with this simply because, look, all of these guys, regardless of position, have tons of tape you can study. But the reason why they bring you here is not just necessarily to really ascertain whether or not you're a good player. They like to just kind of measure your level of competitiveness on an equal playing field where no one's really familiar with anybody. And look, to me, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, look, you're not going to hurt yourself here if you have a bad day because every scout knows that you're kind of the deck is stacked against you. What they want to see is how quickly you could get on the same page with someone. Do you want to really compete against the other guys? And just kind of, again, measure you against another guy on a level playing field. Of course, it's not going to affect their draft status. I really don't care in the grand scheme of things. I just would have liked to see them